new cosmic sea. There's so much to learn. There's so much to be excited about.
Artemis is different from anything humanity has ever embarked on before. And we will discover life-saving, earth-changing science and technology along the way.
We're delving deep into what science can be achieved by humans working together with robotic capabilities and future infrastructure to support a long-term human presence at the moon.
The Artemis generation stands ready to return humanity to the moon and then to take us further than ever before to Mars. Onward and upward.
We are going to the moon, to deep space, and to Mars. Humanity will venture further out into our solar system than ever before. But the history that awaits us requires a first step.
This is a story of a mission that represents that essential
Artemis
first
is
step
different
to
from
the moon.
anything humanity has
A mission that has become the first in a series of increasingly complex missions to expand the bounds of human exploration. This is the story of Artemis 1.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Artemis 1 was a first flight that set new records of performance, exceeded our estimates for efficiency, and established new safety baselines for human flight into deep space. All before returning from this journey, plunging through Earth's atmosphere, and arriving safely back on our home planet.
Good morning. My name is Christina Chanez. I'm with the University of the Virgin Islands College of Science and Math, and I'd like to welcome you this morning to the annual NASA Outreach event. UVI hosts this event annually, and it's something exciting that we're very eager to bring to our community. As we get started, I would like to introduce you to Dr. David Hall, the University of the Virgin Islands president, who's going to offer a few remarks.
Good morning. My name is David Hall. I am the president of the University of the Virgin Islands. I have been president here for over 14 years. This is my 15th year, and it is always exciting to be able to welcome our NASA partners. They have partnered with the university for so many years, and it has really made a difference. This program in particular is one that is very special. And so I want to welcome all of the students who are participating either in person or participating online. I also want to have a special shout out to our teachers who are participating in this program and are the ones who nurture the students who participate in this program. You are their heroes, but you are our heroes as well. In addition to the wonderful students who are participating from the Virgin Islands, we have students who are participating internationally. And I just want to mention a few of the places that we have connections with. There are students here from South Africa, the Philippines, the DC International School. We also have students in Florida who are part of the Palm Beach School and the Naples Classic Academy. Our deep gratitude to have this international diversity of students participating in the same program. Uh, as Virgin Islanders, we are always proud when individuals go off and do great things and then come back and share their knowledge and insights with us. There are two individuals who are part of our family, but part of the Nassau family, Ms. Fullwood and Dr. King. They are participants and will be sharing information with the students, and they are a shining example that the Virgin Islands produces excellence. And we are glad when that excellence comes back and shares with us. Um, I also want to thank the Montessori School and International Academy. They were the ones who launched this initiative back in 2013, and the University of the Virgin Islands is so thankful for their leadership, but we are glad that we have been able to take this over and to move it to even greater heights with the leadership of Christina Chans and David Morris and others who participate in our physics program. And one of the things I hope you understand, especially to students who are considering pursuing higher education, and I hope all of you are, that the University of the Virgin Islands has an outstanding physics program. We were attracting students for a number of years through our applied mathematics program and our engineering partnership with numerous institutions around the nation. We still have that program in existence. However, a number of years ago, we were able to develop a bachelor's degree in physics and have a focus on astronomy, a focus on engineering concentration, and that has attracted many students to us. And what I am proud of is that in just 4 years, we have been able to graduate 14 students with that degree, that is the BS in physics. Many of those students are now pursuing a PhD in physics. Some of them are in the workforce, doing great things as well. So that is another example of how the university is able to attract students from around the world, cultivate them in a very special feel, and finally able to contribute to NASA. One of the reasons we wanted to have this program was so that we could be a supply chain for the talent that NASA and other federal agencies and private agencies need in the workplace. And so finally, I just want to say to all of the students gathered that we would love to have you consider us as an institution for you to pursue your educational dreams. And especially to those who are in very cold climates, it would be wonderful to pursue your degree at a place where the temperature is always in the 80s, where there's a beach right on your campus, and where you can enjoy studying and having a wonderful time year-round. And for those of you who are Virgin Islanders, please remember that we are one of the few institutions in the nation that offers free tuition, and that is complete coverage of all of your costs. And it is the way in which the government and the university are saying to you that we are investing in your future because we want you to invest in our future. So thank you all for participating in this exciting program. Again, I want to thank NASA for its investment in the future of this nation, because all of you, no matter what you think you want to do in the future, you are our best weapons for moving science forward, moving technology forward, and moving this nation and world forward. So welcome again to the program, and I hope you have a wonderful and exciting day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. That was lovely. Always exciting when he joins us and offers his insights with regard to the university. Again, for those cold weather states, remember it's 85 and balmy and absolutely gorgeous outside. So come join us here at the University of the Virgin Islands. As we move along in our agenda this morning, I want to invite my colleague, Miss Meghan, to introduce herself so we can get this party started. Miss Meghan?
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm excited to teach you all a little bit about what we do here at NASA, NASA's Kennedy Space Center. So to get started, I'll go ahead and bring up my presentation. One second here. There we are. All right, so to start here, just a little bit about myself. I am from Virginia originally. I have lived down here, as Dr. Hall said, in the sunny state of Florida for almost 5 years. So I got my bachelor's degree from Radford University in Virginia in communication studies. So that led me to a career in marketing, which I did for 7 years before joining NASA. During the pandemic, I did a master's degree in education from the University of Central Florida. So that was right after I moved down here, got right into lockdown and got studying away. So after I was finished with that is when I transitioned over to NASA. Then you can see a couple pictures that I have there on the left. That one directly on the left is me inside of the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, which is what I'm going to talk to you mostly about today. So you can see I look very small in that big, big room. Then the other picture there on the left is me with my son. He is just a little over a year old. In that picture, he was 6 months old, and he was able to come along with me to an outreach trip to Puerto Rico. So that was his first time flying, first time just seeing what we do at NASA. It's very exciting stuff. But otherwise, when I'm not at work, I love to cook. I'm really trying to become an expert baker right now. You can see a couple of my projects there on the right. Then also I love to travel. My husband and I have the goal to try and visit every US national park. So we're currently at 13. We still have a while to go, but we've got a good chunk off of it already. But other than that, we'll go ahead and get started. Next, I have a video about the Artemis program and specifically the Artemis 1 launch that we just celebrated the 1-year anniversary of a few months ago. So we'll go ahead and talk about that. Sorry about that, guys. Give me 1 second. Forgot to toggle that switch for audio. There we go.
"50 years after we last left footprints on the moon, NASA's Artemis 1 is our first bold step towards getting us back there and pushing us farther than we've ever been before." You are looking at the world's most powerful rocket and Orion spacecraft live on Launch Pad 39B. The energy here is palpable as we attempt to make history today.
We're going to learn so much about the solar system from the moon and even about the Earth.
Range weather. Weather is go for launch.
The mission management team has been pulled. You have a go to proceed with terminal count.
On behalf of all the men and women across our great nation who have worked to bring this hardware together to make this day possible, at this time I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
NASA is now traveling 607 miles per hour.
The harder the climb, the better the view. We showed the Space Coast tonight. What a beautiful
And just
All right,
like
guys.
engineering.
We'll go ahead and move on. I just wanted to stop at the end there before it was over, but that is perfectly okay. We continue to move forward is what we do here at NASA.
Exactly.
All right, so that was a little bit of a peek into a video that we have about the Artemis 1 launch. So that was the first in the Artemis campaign, which is our mission back to the moon. So if you all remember, I mean, I know many of you, your parents might not even have been born yet, but we had the Apollo missions in the 60s. So that started when we went to the moon for the first time. And then that program ended in 1972. So it has been a very long time since we've been back to the moon. So we have now the Artemis program. So Artemis in Greek mythology is the twin sister to Apollo. So we love to, all of this symbolism here to bring those together. So the big goal of the Artemis mission, other than just going back to the moon, is that we are landing the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. So that is very exciting for us. We are already starting in that with the Artemis 2 crew, which I'll show you a little bit here in a minute. But Otherwise, let's get into it. I do want to say quickly, I meant to say at the beginning, that if anybody, we want to end this today with a Q&A, so we'll have a little bit of time at the end. So if you have any questions for me or Christina today, you can either drop them in the Q&A if you're watching on Teams, or you can do on the Facebook Live or message Christina directly. All right, let's continue on here. So we have a beautiful picture here of the Artemis 1 launch. So that was on November 16th, 2022, bright and dark and early at 1:47 a.m. So that was a very long day and night for all of us down here at the Space Coast, but you know, not a way to wake you up or rejuvenate you more in the middle of the night than watching one of the world's most powerful rockets, and is quite inspirational, wakes you right up. So we'll go ahead and look at the Artemis 1 mission. So this is a nice little animation here, so you can see how the SLS rocket, the Space Launch System rocket, took off and then its trajectory around the moon. So this was our first test mission. So there were no astronauts on board. That was because this one is to test all of the systems and make sure everything is safe and everything goes well. So that way our next mission, we can send astronauts on board. So a little bit about the mission here. So as I said, it launched on November 16th. So then it had a 25-day mission. So during that, it traveled up 1.4 million miles. And then, as you can see, it did its loops around the moon. And then when it came back, it was just the Orion capsule. And you'll see a picture here in a moment of the Orion capsule re-entering Earth's atmosphere, and before it splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. And as it was splashing down, it reached speeds of over 24,000 miles per hour. And the Orion capsule splashed down on December 11th. All right, I love this picture here. This is what we call Orion taking a selfie. So there were cameras all on the outside of Orion to not just capture pictures of the systems to make sure everything was working correctly, but as you can see, it captured gorgeous imagery of the moon. So you can see a couple of beautiful craters there. We loved the clarity that these pictures provided. It was incredible. So this picture specifically was taken on December 5th, 2022. So that was just a little less than a week before Orion made its way back to Earth. So you can see that it's incredible. The closest point that Orion flew was about 80 miles to the lunar surface. So very, very close. It did not touch down, but we did its loop around to make sure everything went well that way. All right, and then again with Orion here, you can see these gigantic parachutes that helped Orion slow down before it splashed down in the Pacific Ocean. So the reason we do this in the Pacific Ocean is because we partner with the US Navy and their ports out there off the coast of San Diego. So it splashed down on December 11th, and it was recovered by the US Navy, the Department of Defense. So if you have an interest in working at NASA, which we'll talk about this a little bit more later, and you're interested in the Navy or in the military in general, then you can do both. And that is the perfect way to mesh those worlds together. So we had a safe splashdown of the Orion capsule. Those parachutes deployed. It slowed it down enough to land safely in the ocean. And then one of our naval ships goes and scoops it up, and then it is quickly just make sure everything is good there on the outside, and it is packed up and then shipped all the way back to us at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So not only did it travel from Florida all the way around the moon and back to the coast of California, then it traveled all the way across the country again. So that was a little bit about Artemis 1. So we have right now 4 Artemis missions scheduled. So I will talk to you a little bit about our the next one coming up, which is Artemis 2. So this one is very, very exciting because it is the first one that will have astronauts on board. So this one will have It will still be considered a test mission. These astronauts will not land on the moon. They will be doing the same trajectory and path that Artemis 1 did, but then we will be testing all sorts of new systems, all of the life support systems, breathing air. We'll make sure that the astronauts can eat and all of those things that need to be done to support the crew aboard for when we do land on the moon. So this is very exciting. You can see here, it's very much like the Apollo 8 moment, which is where a test crew did the very same sort of thing before landing on the moon. So next I have a beautiful picture here of the crew. So this was announced last April, our Artemis 2 crew. So in here you can see we have in the front there, it is Reed Wiseman, who's the commander. Then we have in the back center, that is Victor Glover, who is our pilot. On the left is Christina Cook, and she is a mission specialist. She, out of the 4, fun fact, has spent more hours in space than any of the other astronauts, so she is quite ready for this mission. Then on the right, we have another mission specialist, Jeremy Hansen, who is from the Canadian Space program. So it is our partnership with Canada to send one of their astronauts as well, because the whole world has their hands in the pot and excited about the Artemis program. So that is a little rundown of the Artemis program and how we are moving forward with going back to the moon. So in that, I want to talk about the program that I work for at Kennedy Space Center, which is Exploration Ground Systems, EGS for short. You'll probably hear me call it that. So there are so many programs at NASA. There's so many ways to get involved. This one is very exciting for us. We are the largest program here at Kennedy Space Center, and we focus mainly on the Artemis missions. So what we do here at NASA is we simply build, launch, and recover. So with those 3 things, there are lots of things that go into all of that. So building, we utilize the VAB, which you can see in that picture on the left, to build and assemble the rocket, which is the Space Launch System rocket, SLS for short. We love our acronyms. Then in the middle there is probably the most exciting part about what we do. As you saw in the videos, you saw in the intro videos, we launch that big rocket. So very, very exciting. So many years of work that lead up to that. Then after it launches and does its mission, we recover the capsule, like I said, when it comes back. So EGS has a lot to do with this program, with the Artemis program. There's a lot into building, into launching and recovering, and we are so excited about all of it. So today I wanted to do a deep dive into the vehicle assembly building. So this is the iconic building for Exploration Ground Systems. This is huge, number one. We'll talk about how big it is, but it is also iconic, and it is a historic building. So inside of this building is where we build and assemble our rocket. So you can see here, this is a current photo of the vehicle assembly building with the Launch Control Center on the right there. And you can see we will do a little bit of talking about how big this building is, but just for reference in this photo, the building on the right there is a 6-story building. So that just shows you how tall the VAB is next to it. So 6-story building is quite tall too. All right, so first here, we are going to just look at a few pictures from the past. So this building has been erected since the 1960s. So it has been here. It was one of the first things that was finished for the Apollo program. You can see on the bottom left is a picture of one of the stages for the Saturn V rocket, and then on the right is a Saturn V rocket that is rolling out of the VAB right there. So that was in the 60s, and then in the 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, it was where the space shuttle was erected and built and used, and that was a very, very busy time, for the space program with the assembly of the ISS and all of those missions that went up. So you can see that it has it's been busy. It's been busy over the years, and we are now using it for the SLS rocket. So, like I said, the vehicle assembly building is very big, but you might be asking, just how big is it? So we have a couple of fun stats here for you. So we have 525 feet tall. That is pretty tall, but in reference to what? So you can see there on the left, those gray kind of skinny doors there. They look almost like a skinny garage door. Those take 45 minutes to open, and that is them moving relatively fast. So that shows you how tall they are. It's not like they're moving, you know, at an inch pace. They are moving fast, and that's how long it takes them to open up. The doors themselves are over 450 feet tall. So we have a fun fact that I love here is the American flag that you see there on the left of the building. So the blue part where the stars are is the size of an NBA basketball court. But I think the more staggering fact about this is that the stripes that you see there, those are wide enough that a school bus could drive down them. So that shows you a little bit about how big this building is. It is the largest one-story building in the world. So like I said, the other building was 6 stories tall. So then really this one is 1 story. So shouldn't that be smaller? But no, this is the largest one-story building in the world. If you saw the picture of me at the beginning of the presentation, I was standing on the ground floor, which is the main floor, and I could see all the way to the very top of the building. All right, so we have some fun imagery here. So you can see on the left there is the yellow part at the top is one of our multiple cranes that we have. There are 5 total in the VAB. So they are very, very strong. They are a workhorse. They are also ones that have been there since the 60s. So they are just refurbed and continue to be manufactured to be working today. So these are some images from the Artemis 1 build. So you can see one of the side booster, the bottom skirt is there on the left, and then the core stage, that massive core stage at the middle of the rocket. So what happens is that those are brought into the VAB through one of the bay doors, which is one of the lower doors on the side, and they are brought in horizontally like that. And then these cranes that can hold up to 325 tons, they then pick them up and turn them vertical. So that is when they are moved into the high bay, which you can see, and there's actually our next slide has some great images of this, but you can see a little bit there on the left, those kind of like curved floors. They are almost like, they're almost like stories, but they are totally movable. So when the core stage and when these side boosters are turned vertically and put into the high bay, these floors move in. So then all of the employees and all of the workers can work right up against the rocket. And then those stories, they then move away when the rocket is ready to move out. So one of the fun things about these cranes is not only, 325 tons is very, very strong. So that is like, okay, these things are so strong. They must be really hard to move. But no, these cranes are so incredibly precise that you could lower an object onto an egg and it would not crack. That is how it is up to millimeters upon millimeters of space to make sure that these things are precise. So now we're going to, like I said before, we're going to move forward and look a little bit more inside the VAB with the fully stacked SLS rocket. So I love these images so much here. The one on the left is what you can see where it is the rocket in the high bay with all of the floors pulled back. So you can see there in the center, when it is being assembled, all of those are in. So you can see, you might be able to see in there some people that are, for a little size reference there on in that middle image. So each one of these is like a level, like a story of the building. So they can work very closely up on the rocket. Then there's another top view on the right that shows you the crew access arm, which will be going into Orion. which the crew access arm is that white kind of box that you see jutting off of the right there. All right, so then here is a very cool image that is of the mobile launcher with the SLS rocket on it moving out of the VAB. So at the beginning, I showed you those doors that take 45 minutes to open. Well, they're so tall and so skinny, those tall, skinny doors, because that has to be where the mobile launcher and the SLS rocket roll out. So it is built inside the VAB right there where it is fully assembled, and then everything moves away and it is able to be rolled out to the pad. So those doors were 456 feet high, and that is just a little bit higher than the mobile launcher and the rocket. There's just a few inches of room to spare for it to move out. Then after it is done with that process, that is the last place that the SLS will see indoors before it leaves the Earth. So as it rolls out of the VAB, it goes to launch pad 39B, and then it goes to the moon. So, you know, as you can probably tell by my excitement here today, the VAB is not only iconic, it is so historic. It is somewhere that the most historic rockets that we've ever seen launch in the world have been built here. And we are continuing to use it for these missions to go to the moon again. So it's very exciting for us. I would love if anybody ever comes down to Kennedy Space Center or up from the Virgin Islands to come and visit, and you can see this building in person and just how massive and just how important it is of all the work that goes on in here. So next, we'll kind of transition over from talking about the awesome VAB to a little bit other stuff at NASA.
We need you, all of you, to go for everyone.
Where no one has gone before, to help humanity reach our collective goals of exploration and discovery.
Unlock your potential side by side, interns, civil servants, and contractors.
You will be mentored, you will be coached, and you will be challenged for your personal growth and for the success of the Artemis mission.
Your talents,
your skills,
and your perspectives are needed to make this possible.
Splashdown.
Begin your journey from the ground up. The time is here.
The time is now.
All right, I love that video that shows a little bit about the workforce here at Exploration Ground Systems. So we talked a lot today about what we do, the things that are going on at EGS and NASA Kennedy Space Center, but a big part of that is the workforce. There is no part of the Artemis program that could be done without the teamwork done by the workforce that are all across NASA. So myself, I am not an engineer. I work alongside so many engineers, and I just want to highlight some of the different jobs that are available out here at NASA. So we have a couple pictures here. Food scientists. So what do? They do things like come up with recipes and formulas so astronauts can eat while in space, because as you all know, if you've had astronaut ice cream before, that's very different than regular ice cream, and things need to be completely modified so that way astronauts can eat while in space. So we have lots of different pictures here of some different jobs that you could have. So we've got technician jobs, we've got flight controller, we've got construction jobs. I love that picture of his huge wrench, which, you know, when you're working on big rockets, you got big tools. So we have a couple more here. We have social media. So that I'm sure that a lot of you, your parents or older siblings have social media pages, and those skills can be transitioned over to work at NASA one day. Somebody on my team specifically runs several of the NASA Exploration Ground System social media pages. If you like fashion or design of clothing, then you could potentially be a spacesuit designer one day. If you're interested in geology, you could become an astronaut. I know specifically of a few astronauts that have geology degrees because, you know, when they were younger, they said, I enjoy rocks and I want to study more about those. And then that totally transitions over into different aspects of becoming an astronaut. So you could be the one who helps astronauts train. So these astronauts, if you know, they have to do so much training to prepare to be in space, but to do those trainings, they need people to help them with that. So you can see the astronauts in their suits there in the training pool at Johnson Space Center. Then those people behind in the scuba suits, they are helping with connect all of the systems, make sure everything is going well. So if you have a very good attention to detail, or you like to dive, or you're interested in those sorts of things, there's all sorts of different jobs that you can do. One of my favorite ones to highlight is graphic design. So that's a way that you can be an artist and also work at NASA. So here, I love this picture because this is specifically some things that you can do at our program at Exploration Ground Systems. All of the people in these photos are people that I work with specifically. So it's very exciting things. We have engineers. So within engineering, there are all sorts of different pathways that you can take. We've got flight test engineers, we've got launch engineers, avionics engineers. We have technicians that work for EGS. So those are the people that actually have their hands on the tools, hands on the rocket. Then we have people who are into CAD and CAD designing, which CAD is how they designed 3D models of the rocket or the systems that need that you use to help build everything so then the technicians can use it. We have important but maybe not looked at a lot is investigators. So you think, okay, what does that mean, investigator? So all of these people, hundreds and hundreds of people, are working on this rocket and all of the systems to make sure that this that these launches and the missions are successful. So what an investigator does is they look into, there are many of them throughout the program. They look into the nitty-gritty details of everything that's going on to make sure that there are no safety concerns, or if there is something that is going way over budget or way under budget, or if the timeline is too slow or too long. So they are so important in making sure that everybody is on track and number one, everybody and everything is being safe. All right, so our next slide here is very exciting stuff. We have some of the Virgin Islanders who work at NASA. So we had at the beginning, Dr. Hall pointed out these people. These are our two Virgin Islanders. So we have Dr. King there on the left, who's a senior researcher at Langley. So I don't work with him specifically, but he is a force in his field. He is a graduate of Ivana Adora Ken High School, class of 1983, which was a long time ago to some of you, but not that long ago to some of us. Then we have Simone Fullwood, who's a senior systems engineer, and she was raised in St. Thomas and attended the Adelita Cancrin Junior High School. One of the things that we like to talk about so much at NASA is the team sport of it all. We all have to work together. That's what I said. We are a big team of hundreds and hundreds of people in our program alone. So if you think about our program and the Artemis program and going to the moon, then apart from that, there are multiple programs across Kennedy Space Center, which those all have hundreds and hundreds of people working together on their own missions. And then bigger than that are the other centers across the country that all have thousands of people working at them at their different programs. So whatever you're interested in, there is a spot for you at NASA. And we want you to think about all of those things and talk to your teachers and to your parents about your interests and say, well, I'm interested in fashion. I'm interested in math. I'm interested in working with tools, working with my hands. Talk to your parents and teachers about those things, and maybe we can figure out exactly where your spot is, where you can fit into the NASA story. So I have one last video here, which is a message from somebody special who I may or may not have talked about how some astronauts have a degree in geology.
Hello, I am NASA astronaut Joseph Acaba coming to you from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I studied and worked hard, graduating high school in California, and then earning both a bachelor's and master's degrees in geology. While working as an astronaut after my last flight, I earned a master's degree in education, an area I strongly believe in. Education opens doors to so many opportunities. Much of my life has revolved around education, both as a student and a teacher. My education got me to where I am today. When I became an astronaut, it was like going right back to school. We have to learn all about our spacecraft, we learn to speak Russian, and we train in high-speed, high-risk operational environments to help us get ready for a space mission. I've flown 3 missions, one aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery, and twice on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft. Missions lasted from 2 weeks up to 6 months. Here at NASA, we continue to advance the research and technology to return humans to the moon. We are still pushing forward with plans to send the first woman and first person of color to the moon under NASA's Artemis program. No human has set foot on the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972. So the possibility of landing on the moon is incredible. On November 16, we watched Artemis 1 launch and execute the first lunar orbit in more than 50 years. This was the first integrated flight test of NASA's Deep Space Exploration Systems, the Orion spacecraft, Space Launch System rocket, and the ground systems at Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral all came together for this extraordinary mission. Artemis 1 traveled a total of 1.3 million miles to the moon and back. To the moon and back. After a 25-day mission, Orion successfully splashed down on December 11th in the Pacific Ocean. The capsule is now back at Kennedy Space Center, where it is being tested and studied. Up next will be Artemis 2, taking astronauts to the moon, and it will be here before we know it. I'm currently the chief of the astronaut office, ensuring crew safety and mission success. My hopes are to inspire the next generation of explorers and leaders, and to help elevate, build awareness, and highlight the teaching profession and its importance to our society. As you learn more about NASA and all that we do, I want you to remember that we are all crew members aboard a space station, our beautiful planet Earth. Viewing the Earth from space reminds us that we all share the same orbiting sphere as we travel around the sun together.
All right, that's all I have for the presentation today. We would love to go into any questions that you may have for me or anything like that.
Good morning, everyone. That was amazing. And I just want to make one comment to your comment earlier about the VAB. I've actually been in that building. It is huge. You feel like a miniature game piece because it's so big.
It really is. And it's almost my first time walking in there. When you look up and you see all of the scaffolding, it's almost dizzying because it is so tall and there are so many levels. It is just, it's really mind blowing. And I really hope that every single person who's on this call gets the opportunity to come and look at it one day, because you could work inside of that building. And I mean, there's no cooler place to walk into every day than that place.
Exactly. So we have a couple of questions I'm really excited about, and one I find to be the funniest, so I'm going to ask you that. Does the car that drives the rockets, i.e. the crawler, have a name?
So it is called the crawler. So we have crawler 1 and crawler 2. So those are actually, they started out as nicknames. The crawler is its nickname. So they are these pieces of equipment, which you could see in a couple of the pictures that I had there, where the SLS rocket on the mobile launcher is moving out of the VAB. It's being carried by the crawler, which is built out of old railroad and those train parts. So those are things that did not exist before. This piece of equipment was something that had to be completely built. Nothing like it had ever existed before. So it is completely unique. We love the crawler. It is, as far as all of our equipment goes and everything that we work on, it is the smallest, which is to say it's the size of a baseball field. So it's still huge
massive.
And it's very strong, but it doesn't get a lot of, attention because it's the bottom thing with a giant rocket on top. So everybody looks at the rocket, but when really the powerhouse is the crawler.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but I learned a little fun fact, and I wonder if you can share it. Apparently, you have to spend quite a bit of time working in and around the crawler before you can drive it. And I understand that most recently there is one woman that is now at the level to be able to drive that thing, which is massive.
Yes, it is a very prestigious job at EGS. So we only have 6 people total that can drive it. So like you said, the first woman has completed all of the training and all of the hours to drive it. And I mean, she's awesome. We all loved that to happen for her. And we hope that, even more women and all sorts of people can train to do that very specific job. Because, I mean, as you can imagine, there's nothing quite as high stress as driving a rocket to where it needs to go. So that's why there are so few people that are equipped and trained to do it. So we are very excited about her.
And one last question on the crawler. How long does it take to get from the VAB to the launch pad?
Yeah, so that is just over 4 miles from the VAB to the launch pad, and it takes over 8 hours to get there. Because
oh my goodness. So when the launches were getting canceled, were you going back and forth or no?
Oh, back and forth. And you can see, from all the way. So the way it's set up is that we have the coast of Florida, and then the Cape is kind of a chain of islands off. So there's a body of water between the main state, coast, and then where NASA is. And you can see it looks very small from that far away, but when it's moving from the launch pad or back and forth, and you can see it just moving so slowly. So yeah, all of those launch attempts, we had to, it was over 8 hours for it to just move back and forth. So that's a lot of time that's built into that. And then, I'm sure you are aware of the one launch attempt during which they were happening during hurricane season.
Yes, I was there.
Yeah, we rolled back for, I believe it was, Hurricane Ian, we rolled back for because it was not looking great. We did not want to risk the rocket being out there. Then again, we had Hurricane Nicole when the rocket was out there, and that's when all of our scientists and we had experts come out and make sure that everything was safe, and the rocket rode out over there during the hurricane and everything went great. And there were a few people, these people have gotten awards, recognition, the people who stayed out at the pad during the hurricane to make sure that everything was good. So if you're a thrill seeker, there's even a job like that.
You have that job as well. Speaking of hurricanes, we did get one question with regard to, I want to find it. Is it true that NASA has equipment that blocks lightning?
Yes, so out at the launch pad, there are 3 lightning towers, which these are massive. They almost look like a cell phone tower or a little bit like skinnier than that, and they are several feet taller than the mobile launcher and the rocket. So the reason that these are is because, you know, here in Florida, we are one of the highest frequency for lightning in the country. So we get, I mean, I'm sure I know you all because in the Virgin Islands, you get afternoon thunderstorms, every single day it seems like in the summertime. So that's how it is for us. So we have to make sure that these lightning towers are erected around every single one of our rockets out here to make sure that if lightning strikes, they will go to the lightning tower and not to the rocket, because that could be, I mean, that could be devastating for the equipment and the technology on the rocket.
Okay, I have one more question if we have time, and that is, when you have the rocket and you have a hurricane, does that impact the launch if you know it's coming, or do you plan? I think that's what they're asking.
Yeah, kind of like what I was saying before, it's really a case by case basis because, I mean, as you all know, hurricanes change we get our updates every 6 hours, every 8 hours from the National Weather Society. So we wait and see what happens as best we can, because with the moving it out to the pad, moving it back, it's not a simple process. So these are things that have to be planned. So it takes 8 hours for us to move back to the VAB if we were to make that decision. So if it happens last minute and the hurricane, you know, does its little turn and decides to go up somewhere else, then we're good and we're able to stay out there. But if it has to be moved back in, those things are, you know, they're minute by minute, hour by hour decisions that are made.
And so is everyone, like if there's a hurricane, there's like a hurricane team, or is it the whole team always? Because we have at UVI and in our community, we have like Vitima and we have like neighborhood folks that will like do certain specific things. Is it like that at NASA, or is it all hands on deck?
So it's a little bit of both. I mean, it all is, every team is making their own decisions and, you know, doing their safety requirements and making sure all of those things. But what we like to do during things like that is it's basically a strike force of different people from representative from each department of the most important parts of the rocket and the, you know, the build and the buildings and all of these things that come together, and those people are the representatives for the teams to make the right decisions and what they think could work. So we like to not have a huge team to be the ones out there, you know, riding out the storm or making those last minute calls. These are people that are very important and that get the, you know, they give the no go from their departments on if it's something they want to ride out or move back.
And then a question for the teachers. They would like to know if there are resources available for them to include in their physical science classes that NASA offers, either videos or worksheets or things of that nature. Can you briefly cover that in the few minutes we have left?
Yeah, so we have, you know, it's seems very simple, seems very straightforward, but nasa.gov is an incredible resource for teachers. So there are different resources if you look through that website, because it's not just a government website with information on the programs. There's also specific resources for teachers. So there are things that you can look there, which they are, I mean, from kindergarten and pre-K all the way up to high school. So they have things like science experiments. They have things like coloring sheets, worksheets, printouts, all sorts of different things that you can see. There are some videos that go along that you could put in presentations. So I would say do a little bit of digging around on nasa.gov and you'll find some great stuff there. I mean, even if you're looking for things that are, say, videos or imagery, like some of the things that I had in my presentation today, a lot of those are public access, public domain. So you can download those and have them on your presentation. So there are some fun things there. That's not necessarily in the teacher resources area, but you can find that in the imagery and the media things that are available for the public. So it's a very great resource.
Super. I'll look for some tools to share with some of the teachers. Last question. Do you intend, or does NASA intend to build a colony or a city on Mars similar to the International Space Station?
Yeah, so this is very exciting. So we are the first step. The couple first Artemis missions are the first step in us getting to Mars. So that is the ultimate goal for our program and for the somewhat near future. These are things that we're planning for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So in that, which is very exciting, once we get to about Artemis 4, which is where we will be after the astronauts have landed back on the moon, they are going to start building and erecting a space station that is very similar to the ISS that will be orbiting the moon. So this is what we are calling Gateway. So this is a space station that will be orbiting the moon, which will be a place just like how you see the space station and the astronauts get on and they can live aboard that. There will be that going around the moon as well, which that will be the place where astronauts can live and sleep in the time that it takes, because they will be going down to the moon and back up, and they will be needing the resources from the space station, from the Gateway. So that's very exciting stuff. That's where, the first step is to build the fueling station and where we will need to refuel to get to Mars, which is on the moon. So the first step in that is building Gateway, which is very exciting.
Great. Well, as we wrap this session up, I want to thank you, Megan, for your wealth of information and knowledge, and for all the history that you shared with us and our community and folks all across the country and the globe. Thank you so much. And for those of you that would like to join us at 10:30, please do so. Please place your questions in the chat, and we look forward to learning more about NASA as the week goes on. Thanks, everyone.
Hi, thank you.
Artemis is different from anything humanity has ever embarked on before. And we will discover life-saving, earth-changing science and technology along the way.
We're delving deep into what science can be achieved by humans working together with robotic capabilities and future infrastructure to support a long-term human presence at the moon.
The Artemis generation stands ready to return humanity to the moon and then to take us further than
Artemis
ever
is
before
different from anything humanity has ever done before.
Onward and up.
And we will discover life-saving, earth-changing science.
We are going to the moon, to deep space, and to Mars. Humanity will venture further out into our solar system than ever before. But the history that awaits us requires a first step.
This is a story of a mission that represents that essential first step to the moon. A mission that has become the first in a series of increasingly complex missions to expand the bounds of human exploration. This is the story of Artemis 1.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Artemis 1 was a first flight that set new records of performance, exceeded our estimates for efficiency, and established new safety baselines for human flight into deep space. All before returning from this journey, plunging through Earth's atmosphere, and arriving safely back on our home planet.
Are we good? Good morning. My name is Christina Chanes, and I'm with the University of the Virgin Islands. I'm a research specialist at the university. Every year, we host the annual UVI NASA Outreach Program. This year, we're hosting it virtually, so we'd like to welcome all of you from around the territory, St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. Welcome and good morning. We'd also like to welcome our guests stateside and internationally. For those of you who aren't aware, UVI hosts a global event. Before we begin our exciting morning with our NASA scientists and guest speakers, we would really like to welcome Dr. David Hall, the president of the university. Dr. Hall, take it away.
Good morning. My name is David Hall. I am the president of the University of the Virgin Islands. I have been president here for over 14 years. This is my 15th year, and it is always exciting to be able to welcome our NASA partners. They have partnered with the university for so many years, and it has really made a difference. This program in particular is one that is very special, and so I want to welcome all of the students who are participating either in person or participating online. I also want to have a special shout out to our teachers who are participating in this program and are the ones who nurture the students who participate in this program. You are their heroes, but you are our heroes as well. In addition to the wonderful students who are participating from the Virgin Islands, we have students who are participating internationally. And I just want to mention a few of the places that we have connections with. There are students here from South Africa, the Philippines, the DC International School. We also have students in Florida who are part of the Palm Beach School and the Naples Classic Academy. Our deep gratitude to have this international diversity of students participating in the same program. As Virgin Islanders, we are always proud when individuals go off and do great things and then come back and share their knowledge and insights with us. There are two individuals who are part of our family, but part of the NASA family, Ms. Fullwood and Dr. King. They are participants and will be sharing information with the students, and they are a shining example that the Virgin Islands produces excellence, and we are glad when that excellence comes back and shares with us. I also want to thank the Montessori School and International Academy. They were the ones who launched this initiative back in 2013, and the University of the Virgin Islands is so thankful for their leadership, but we are glad that we have been able to take this over and to move it to even greater heights with the leadership of Christina Chans and David Morris and others who participate in our physics program. And one of the things I hope you understand, especially to students who are considering pursuing higher education, and I hope all of you are, that the University of the Virgin Islands has an outstanding physics program. We were attracting students for a number of years through our applied mathematics program and our engineering partnership with numerous institutions around the nation. We still have that program in existence. However, a number of years ago, we were able to develop a bachelor's degree in physics and have a focus on astronomy, a focus on engineering concentration, and that has attracted many students to us. And what I am proud of is that in just 4 years, we have been able to graduate 14 students with that degree, that is the BS in physics. Many of those students are now pursuing a PhD in physics. Some of them are in the workforce, doing great things as well. So that is another example of how the university is able to attract students from around the world, cultivate them in a very special field, and finally able to contribute to NASA. One of the reasons we wanted to have this program was so that we could be a supply chain for the talent that NASA and other federal agencies and private agencies need in the workplace. And so finally, I just want to say to all of the students gathered that we would love to have you consider us as an institution for you to pursue your educational dreams. And especially to those who are in very cold climates, it would be wonderful to pursue your degree at a place where the temperature is always in the 80s, where there's a beach right on your campus, and where you can enjoy studying and having a wonderful time year-round. And for those of you who are Virgin Islanders, please remember that we are one of the few institutions in the nation that offers free tuition, and that is complete coverage of all of your costs. And it is the way in which the government and the university are saying to you that we are investing in your future because we want you to invest in our future. So thank you all for participating in this exciting program. Again, I want to thank NASA for its investment in the future of this nation, because all of you, no matter what you think you want to do in the future, you are our best weapons for moving science forward, moving technology forward, and moving this nation and world forward. So welcome again to the program, and I hope you have a wonderful and exciting day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. Such a lovely welcome. I want to also mention that Miss Una Dyer, his administrative personnel, is the reason that we get to have Dr. Hall with us on this very exciting event. And I have to say, he hasn't missed one in all the years that I've been doing the planning, which is really exciting because he loves this event. So thank you, Dr. Hall. Next up, we'd like to share with you a video created by students and teachers from the Adelita Cancrine, currently known as Lockhart K through 8. And that's the school where Miss Fullwood went to when she lived on island.
Hi, I'm Kimaisha Salif, an 8th grade student, and I'm your future astrophysicist.
Hi, I'm Kaylee Charles, an 8th grade student, and I'm your future physicist.
We are the UVI Water Ambassadors from Adelita Cancrine Junior High School.
Many know the USVI as a beautiful place in the Eastern Caribbean, but let's share a little bit about our history. The United States Virgin Islands, officially the Virgin Islands of the United States, are a group of Caribbean islands and an unincorporated and organized territory of the United States. The islands are geographically part of the Virgin Islands archipelago and are located in the Leeward Islands of the Lesser Antilles to the east of Puerto Rico and west of the British Virgin Islands. The U.S. Virgin Islands consists of the main islands of St. Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas, and 50 other surrounding minor islands and cays. The total land area of the territory is 133.73 square miles. The territory's capital is Charlotte-Amalie on the island of St. Thomas, previously known as the Danish West Indies of the Kingdom of Denmark, Norway, from 1754 to 1814, and the Independent Kingdom of Denmark from 1814 to 1917. They were sold to the United States by Denmark for $2,500,000 in the 1917 Treaty of the Danish West Indies, and have since been an organized, unincorporated United States territory. The U.S. Virgin Islands are organized under the 1954 Revised Organic Act of the Virgin Islands and have since held 5 constitutional conventions. You can see the islands of St. Thomas and St. John. We are famous for our beautiful beaches, clear blue skies, and festivals that bring millions to our beautiful islands.
In the USVI, there's constant study and research of extreme weather and drought.
Details of a dire situation in the territory when it comes to the continuous agriculture is alerting both the farming community The U.S. drought monitors have listed the territory as severe, hence
Researchers at local and federal agencies such as the VA Department of Planning, Natural Resources, and Water and Power Authority, along with the VA Territorial Emergency (MTT) Agency by TEMA, and the U.S. Drought Monitors, along with our federal partners at USDA, USGS, Environmental Protection Agency, and National Weather Service, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, among others, who work day and night to research and study climate and the impact of climate change so that we can protect our community. You may not know, but many in the USVI actually collect rainwater for home use, as many do not have piped-in city water, much as they do in other areas across the world. Researchers actually study data from the USVI to study climate, and now you can't see it because we have had rain. But in January, February, and March, you can see harsh distress of vegetation, erosion, and compare these images to others taken over longer periods to determine what the impacts of droughts are in the USVI and the region. USDA and the Farm Service Agency work hard to aid farmers in the territory when severe droughts impacts the islands. Right now, we are facing drought conditions, and it appears, based on research here, the territory is heading into an earlier drought. The video of the ponds shows them filled, which is a blessing in our community, but these ponds have not been filled since 2015, and just as recent as December were nearly empty.
Remember, you can do your part to address climate change, conserve water, don't waste food, plan ahead for natural disasters, and learn about science and STEM from every inch of your community, including school, when visiting and going out in your community and become an ambassador to protect our community.
To our fellow future scientists watching today from all across the globe, we hope you enjoyed the presentation presented to you by the students from across the USVI and the nation as we learn more from NASA scientists about how we as students can join the ranks for NASA as we begin our journey to the USVI and other universities and study STEM to make the world a better, safer place for all of us.
We are the UVI Water Ambassadors.
And now, on to the NASA presentation. Thank you.
That was a great presentation from our youth in our community on the beautiful island of St. Thomas. And for those of you abroad, we wanted to give you a little field trip to our beautiful islands and our territory so that you could see. And for those of you who are applying to college, you would know it's beautiful. It's 85 and it's not cold. There's no snow. So come join us. Next up, I would like to introduce my colleague, Miss Meghan from NASA, and Miss Olivia, who is going to share with us a little bit more information. Miss Olivia is one of my favorite speakers along with Miss Meghan. So ladies, take it away.
Thank you so much, Christina. We are so excited to be here. I will go ahead and get our presentation started here. Just give me one moment. All right, so we have right here a little bit about myself. My name is Meghan Epperly. I am the Education and Outreach Coordinator at Exploration Ground Systems at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. So, a little bit about me. I am from Virginia, which, like Dr. Hall said in the beginning, I now live in Florida for a reason because I can't handle the cold weather. I'm sure I would love the Virgin Islands as well. So I have my bachelor's degree in communication studies from Radford University. And with that, I went into marketing for 7 years before joining NASA. And then during the pandemic, I got my master's degree from the University of Central Florida in education. And after I was finished up with that, that's when I transitioned over to NASA in my current role. So you can see on the left a couple pictures of me. I am in the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building there on the left, which is what you're going to learn mostly about today. And then the other picture on the left is me with my son. When he was 6 months old, he went on an outreach trip with me to Puerto Rico. So he got to learn all about NASA and what we do here as well. A little bit about me: when I'm not at work, I love to cook. I'm really trying to hone in my skills on baking right now. You can see a couple of my projects there on the right. And also I love to travel. My husband and I are trying to visit every U.S. national park, and we are currently at 13, so we have quite a few to go, but we're making progress. But that's enough about me. The best part about my job is that I can connect all of you students and teachers with the experts in the field at NASA. So today we have Olivia Fuentes, who is going to be talking to you all about EGS, Artemis, and everything fun we have going on here.
Thank you, Megan. I appreciate that. And thank you, Dr. Hall, for inviting us to come be part of this event, and Christina Chance for allowing us this opportunity to reach out and talk to such wonderful potentials that we can potentially have at NASA in the future. So welcome. My name is Olivia Fuentes. I was born in Miami to Cuban immigrants. I graduated with a degree from Embry-Riddle Aeronautic University in aerospace engineering, and later I got my master's in technical management. I have been here at NASA as a contractor and now as a civil servant for more than 20 years. I've worked on a variety of things from the space shuttle to the International Space Station to flight hardware experiments, in a variety of different hardware that the astronauts get to use when they do their extravehicular activities, when they come out in their suits to work around the International Space Station. I now am excited. I used to work at Johnson Space Center, which was where I first started my career, and I was there for more than 15 years. I came after that to Kennedy Space Center, where I've had the opportunity to work directly on Orion in the development stages at Johnson Space Center, and then later here during the exploration launch that we did. And we ended up working a variety of different things at the operations and checkout facility for Orion. Now I work on the ground integration systems. I was the vehicle assembly building integration engineer. Now I am working program integration and life cycles engineering, which is wonderful because I get to see things from a bigger perspective, big picture, budget, schedules, and performance across the entire program. My husband is Gilberto. We have 3 beautiful girls, 19, 17, and 6 years old. So my life is never boring. They keep me on my toes. Next. So first, I'd like to share this video with you.
50 years after we last left footprints on the moon, NASA's Artemis 1 is our first bold step towards getting us back there and pushing us farther than we've ever been before. You are looking at the world's most powerful rocket and Orion spacecraft live on Launch Pad 39B. The energy here is palpable as we attempt to make history today.
We're going to learn so much about the solar system from the moon and even about the Earth.
Range weather. Weather is go for launch.
The mission management team has been pulled. You have a go to proceed with terminal count.
On behalf of all the men and women across our great nation who have worked to bring this hardware together to make this day possible, at this time I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
SLS now traveling 607 miles per hour.
The harder the climb, the better the view. We showed the Space Coast tonight. What a beautiful view it is. The first step in returning our country to the moon and on to Mars.
We are understanding now from the James Webb Space Telescope just how big and vast this universe is. There's a lot out there to explore. And this is the next beginning.
Orion is now flying free, attached to the European Service Module and on its journey to the moon.
So first, I have to tell you, this has been one of my most exciting things in my career. I got the opportunity to start on the Orion program at the very beginning during the stage of requirements and design and development, and was able to work through all of the testing that we had for Orion, and now the integration with the Space Launch System, and to be part of the Artemis 1 launch that occurred November 16, 2022 at 1:47 a.m. in the morning was probably the most exciting part of my career ever, to come and see it through fruition on that amazing launch. We were in space for 25.5 days, where we circled the moon, did 3 rotations around the moon, and came back to Earth. On the way there, we were testing the vehicle, and we actually delivered some small CubeSat satellites on the way there. Then we tested all of our systems around the moon and came back, landing on December 11, 2022. We were able to receive a lot of information, traveled 1.5 million miles, and so it re-entered into our atmosphere at over 24,000 miles an hour. So it is definitely faster than the space shuttle, which would fly at about 18,000 and change. So it was exciting to see this development and seeing it launch and retrieved. Next. So here you have an amazing picture captured from the cameras on Orion, and these engineers, which are just so amazing, thought of everything. They put cameras at the end of our solar arrays so that as Orion went around the moon, we could capture amazing pictures of the moon and of Earth as Orion went around the moon the 3 times before it did its final elliptical turn around the moon and came back in order to use the gravity of the moon to return it to Earth. Next. Here is Orion coming down in the Pacific with the 3 parachutes, but as part of these parachutes, there are 3 series of parachutes. Before you see this one, there are 2 others. The first one removes the cover off of Orion, exposing the parachutes. The second set of parachutes that come out actually slow down the vehicle to allow the vehicle to be at a speed that when these 3 orange and white parachutes deploy, it allows it to land safely and deliver our astronauts into the ocean at a safe speed. Next. So Artemis 2, we are so excited to be launching Artemis 2 next year. And this is going to be our first crewed flight, having our astronauts fly on the Space Launch System in Orion, delivering these 4 wonderful astronauts with so much experience back to the lunar environment for the first time in more than 50 years. So when we get Artemis on the moon, it's going to be our Apollo 8 moment when we actually land on the Earth and see the backdrop of Earth from the moon. Next. So let me introduce you to our crew. We have Reed Wiseman, our commander, which is sitting in the middle at the bottom on the chair. We have Victor Glover, our pilot, which is standing in the back in the middle. Christina Koch on the left, which is our mission specialist, and Jeremy Hansen on the right. So this is the reason we work so hard to make safe planetary travel. It is for our crew so that we can fly them there, collect as much information and advancement as we can, and return them safely back to the Earth. As you see here, Christina has probably the most experience in space, although all of them have experience in space, but she is the one with the most time in space thus far of the team. Next. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do at Exploration Ground Systems. In the left here, you're going to see that we have the vehicle coming in to the vehicle assembly building. And what you're seeing is the core stage being brought down in order to incorporate that into the solid rocket boosters that have already been lowered and stacked inside of the vehicle assembly building. The other thing that we do is once we get the entire vehicle assembled, we launch it from pad 39A, and we have a nice long rollout to the pad in order for us to launch. And then once we land, we recover it off the Pacific Ocean with the USS Portland in conjunction with the US Navy. They are the ones that we work with to retrieve Orion so that we can bring it back to shore and then bring it on a truck all the way back to Kennedy Space Center, where we then refurbish it. Next. So let me tell you a little bit about the vehicle assembly building. This is where I worked until recently, where I transitioned over to the program integration. This is one of our historic buildings here in Kennedy Space Center. Next. As you can see, it was used during the Apollo era on the right-hand side, and then later to process the space shuttle, which we were able to do from a variety of different bays. We have 4 high bays in this facility, and the space shuttle used a variety of them to be able to be produced so we can get so many launches out. At this time, we will be using 2 of the high bays to process for Artemis. Artemis 1 is being processed in high bay 3, and in high bay 4, we were going to be processing the additional segments for Artemis 4. So that is what we have currently working in the vehicle assembly building. Now let me show you some more. Next. So let me give you some fun facts about the VAB. Next. It is huge. It is 525 feet tall. 45 minutes to just open and close the doors. That is a really long time. So we all have to plan when we're doing special operations or testing and we need to roll out the vehicle. We have to account for the time it takes to open the doors and to move and roll out the vehicle. It is 3.5 times, it's 3.5 state buildings can fit inside this VAB. And the American flag that you see outside is 209 feet tall. I could see that from a highway that is pretty far away. It's called Highway 528, and you can see this building from that highway. That's how big this building is. But it's amazing to work there. All of the history and everything that we have been able to accomplish is amazing. Next. So here you see a variety of different segments. We are stacking a segment on the left-hand side with the crane. That is a 325-ton crane that we use to bring the segments up. On the right, you see the core stage, and we roll in the core stage when it gets here from the barge, roll it into the VAB, and then there are 2 cranes. The first one is the one at the very front. That is the 325-ton crane. And the one in the back is a 250-ton crane. And what they use the 2 for is to actually swing over the core stage so that it becomes completely vertical. At that point, once they stabilize it vertically, they use the 325-ton crane to bring it up and over to start stacking it, just like we do Legos. There is a series to how we stack all of our segments, and we start with the solid rocket boosters. And once those are complete, then the core stage comes next, and we start stacking from there up until the final segment is added, which is the Orion. And Orion already comes stacked with the launch abort system at the very top. Next. So here gives you a perspective of the Space Launch System with the Orion stacked at the very top. And if you can see on the left-hand side, those platforms actually move closer around the spacecraft, and then once the entire spacecraft is built, and you can see that in the middle picture where all of the platforms are around the vehicle, allowing all of the engineers and technicians to come around and assemble the entire spacecraft. At the end, when we get ready to roll it out and move it out to the pad, all of those platforms are able to move out of the way and flip up so that we can roll it out. Amazing, amazing technology. Next. And here you see the vehicle rolling out to the pad. We actually travel quite a bit on a transporter, and that the crawler, which I'm not sure if you can see at the bottom, has the American flag and the Artemis flag. That is the crawler that allows us to take the vehicle out to the pad, and the mobile launcher is the one you see on the left with all of those pipes, and that is what remains where we launched the vehicle from. Above the attached to the mobile launcher, it provides the fuel that we launch at the end when we're ready to do our final countdown. We load the cryogenics into the vehicle. Next. So here's again the vehicle assembly building. And let me now show you a small video. Next.
We need you, all of you, to go for everyone.
Where no one has gone before, to help humanity reach our collective goals of exploration and discovery.
Unlock your potential side by side, interns, civil servants, and contractors.
You will be mentored, you will be coached, and you will be challenged for your personal growth and for the success of the Artemis mission.
Your talents,
your skills,
and your perspectives are needed to make this possible.
Splashdown.
Begin your journey from the ground up. The time is here.
The time is now.
I love that video. So as you can see, we have a lot of different skills and a lot of different talent that comes together with a very diverse workforce, diverse in every way. Everything from engineers to project managers. We have technicians, designers, we have developers for software, we have welders, we have plumbers, we have electricians, we have investigators, we have social media specialists. We have, go to the next one, please. We have interns, we have flight controllers, launch pad construction. Like I said, we have a lot of welders, avionics technicians. We even have food scientists. So at NASA, what I love about working here is the diverse team that has to come together in order for us to be able to get things done. Our social media team that allows the information of all the wonderful things and technological advancements that we are developing in space to bring down to Earth and help humanity is being communicated through social media. We have spacesuit designers and geologists so that we know how we're going to do operations and what we plan to mine at the moon in order to allow us to sustain ourselves there. We have graphic designers. We even have divers that work with the astronaut training in the natural buoyancy lab in Houston, Texas. So there is a great deal of opportunities. It doesn't matter if you are not interested in being an engineer because we have something for everyone. We provide a variety of different opportunities, whether it's vocational or any of your professional technological degrees. All are welcome and used here at NASA in order for us to come together and build this spacecraft to launch it to the moon and back. Next. So here I want to highlight some of our amazing Virgin Islanders that work at NASA. Next. So as you can see, we have a diverse team working on all of the different aspects of exploration ground systems, but not just exploration ground systems, all the teams that come together to make this possible, from the Space Launch System to Orion to Exploration Ground Systems, and now Gateway and all of the other partners that we come together to be able to get us on the surface of the moon eventually with a lander. All of us have a very diverse skill set and workforce. And I hope that you can look up and become part of our interns and potentially our future. And remember, it can be at NASA as a contractor, like how I started, or as a civil servant, like I am today. And it doesn't matter how late you get to join the team, as long as you're part of the team.
Hello, I am NASA astronaut Joseph Acaba, coming to you from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I studied and worked hard, graduating high school in California, and then earning both a bachelor's and master's degrees in geology. While working as an astronaut after my last flight, I earned a master's degree in education, an area I strongly believe in. Education opens doors to so many opportunities. Much of my life has revolved around education, both as a student and a teacher. My education got me to where I am today. When I became an astronaut, it was like going right back to school. We have to learn all about our spacecraft, we learn to speak Russian, and we train in high-speed, high-risk operational environments to help us get ready for a space mission. I've flown 3 missions, one aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery, and twice on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft. Missions lasted from 2 weeks up to 6 months. Here at NASA, we continue to advance the research and technology to return humans to the moon. We are still pushing forward with plans to send the first woman and first person of color to the moon under NASA's Artemis program. No human has set foot on the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972. So the possibility of landing on the moon is incredible. On November 16, we watched Artemis 1 launch and execute the first lunar orbit in more than 50 years. This was the first integrated flight test of NASA's Deep Space Exploration Systems, the Orion spacecraft, Space Launch System rocket, and the ground systems at Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral all came together for this extraordinary mission. Artemis 1 traveled a total of 1.3 million miles to the moon and back. After a 25-day mission, Orion successfully splashed down on December 11th in the Pacific Ocean. The capsule is now back at Kennedy Space Center, where it is being tested and studied. Up next will be Artemis 2, taking astronauts to the moon, and it will be here before we know it. I'm currently the chief of the astronaut office, ensuring crew safety and mission success. My hopes are to inspire the next generation of explorers and leaders, and to help elevate, build awareness, and highlight the teaching profession and its importance to our society. As you learn more about NASA and all that we do, I want you to remember that we are all crew members aboard a space station, our beautiful planet Earth. Viewing the Earth from space reminds us that we all share the same orbiting sphere as we travel around the sun together.
All right.
So,
yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me, and to let you know that we do have internship programs here at NASA, as well as all of the contractors also offer internship programs. So please be sure to check the internships program website and look at all of the different opportunities that we offer here at NASA, as well as the contractors, so that you have the opportunity to do an internship here or any of the locations that we have in the United States. We have a variety of different opportunities at different NASA centers across the entire US, and many of them that have come together and have been part of what we do for Artemis. So many opportunities in many fields in many different areas. So please take a look at that. So let's get started with questions. I'll turn it over to Megan.
Yes, thank you so much, Olivia. It is so great to hear your perspective and to hear a little bit about your job and everything you do at NASA. I mean, I especially love just hearing about all of the different opportunities that we have, and no matter what your interest is, that there's a spot for you at NASA. Because I think when you're a young child, you know, everyone wants to be an astronaut, and that's incredible. And maybe you will be that one day, but you can also be a part of the space industry in many other ways than being just an astronaut. And I think that's really exciting. But like Olivia said, if anybody has any questions for us, you can feel free to drop them directly to Christina. If you're watching via Teams, we have a Q&A option, or on the Facebook link as well. But for now, I will see if Christina has any questions for us. We'll continue this discussion.
We do. One group of students wants to know, do they take food into space or do they grow their own?
So we currently take our food to space. However, there are many different experiments that we have been performing with food in space so that we understand the characteristics, what works, what doesn't, what grows best, what doesn't, what kind of nutrients would it provide. So there's a lot of experiments regarding food growth in space, but right now we have a lab dedicated to making the food for the astronauts at Johnson Space Center, and they dehydrate all of the food and package it. The astronauts get to select the food that they want to take. This is gourmet food, because when I worked at Johnson Space Center, they would always invite when they were putting out a new set of food to try, and you could come out and try all the different food that they were going to be flying up to the Space Center. And I was part of a project that allowed us to upgrade the lab from producing food for 4 astronauts to producing food for 7. So we were able to optimize their space to produce more food for up to 7 astronauts.
Wow, that's impressive. One of the students wants to know, is space a democracy?
I am hoping that as we move forward, currently it is a united space front for humanity. And so I hope and continue to pray that as we move forward, it continues to stay something that we get to go do as a world humanity perspective, and it doesn't have any of those type of tags on it, and it's more just there for all of humanity to enjoy and be able to prosper and be part of.
I can add to that a little bit too, that there's the Artemis Accords, which is a collective agreement and plan for international countries to work together for space exploration. And as of today, 33 countries have signed that. So
Wow.
That is a way for, because space exploration is more than just about the United States. It is a national effort that requires assets from all over the world. So we're definitely, as those things are happening, we're working with other countries and trying to make it as a joint force and responsibility for everyone across the world.
And that's what we've been doing at the International Space Station. That has been also a collaborative work that we've done with multiple countries that has allowed us to enjoy a lot of the advancements in space due to a lot of the work that's been done across the world.
Mr. Akaba mentioned that he did a personal grading for us a few years ago because he has family in Puerto Rico, and he's from and was a teacher in California before he moved on to NASA. And he mentioned that the ISS, it's different people with different belief systems, cultures, values, and they just all get along for the greater good, which I think is, something that we have to do at schools and in jobs. And so it's nice to hear that they're doing that. In space as well. Okay, another question for you is, how can students learn more about interns and what are their ages? And I would like to add a little caveat to this, Miss Meghan and Miss Olivia. If you're not old enough to be an intern, can you take part in challenges?
Yeah, I can take that one, that question, Olivia. So the best resource to become an intern at NASA or a contractor is to check out interns.nasa.gov. So that's where you'll find the official NASA internship website. That said, those are typically open for college students. That's why I say we do most of our internships for college students and beyond. There are a few co-op opportunities. They are limited, but they do exist for high school students. So there are some opportunities out there if you want to get started at a younger age. I will say getting connected with anybody that you know at a NASA center to see if you can do a co-op or to get connected to do challenges or anything like that. Those are perfect. I know a lot of state science fairs are an avenue that you can take to get connected with a NASA center if you have one in your state or know of one that you can participate in. So there are several different resources that you can take for that. And, you know, it's never too young to get started trying to connect with people to see how you can get out at NASA.
And one last,
just to,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, just to add to Megan's, depending on the age, there are opportunities in the summer to do week-long programs at Kennedy Space Center. So they do have 1 week-long programs at Kennedy Space Center that they should be able to go and look into if they want to come and do something like that as well.
Can you tell us a little bit about the vomit comet? Everybody has to hear about the vomit comet. Come on, ladies.
So the vomit comet, I have not had an opportunity to fly on board, but I've had a lot of friends that have flown on board. And it is essentially a way for them to conduct zero gravity experiments in an airplane. And what they do is they fly these big parabolas with the airplane where they get to go and do this type of flying in the airplane. And by them doing that, it creates that zero gravity for those experiments. However, your body is also doing this as it's going up and down in these parabolas and in across the sky. And so your stomach at some point goes, you know, I'm really not liking this entire ongoing roller coaster feeling. And so a lot of people may exercise vomiting as part of the experience in the vomit comet, because unless you are used to those kind of forces, there are a lot of forces that get introduced into your body and your stomach. So we don't recommend a full stomach big breakfast right before going on that.
Yeah, I can imagine. What does it mean when you say G-force? What is G-force?
So the amount of how many times you're fighting the force of gravity. So your body, as it's going, you're having forces being put on your body by that airplane moving in a certain direction at a certain velocity, going opposite of the gravity on Earth. And then you're having to see those. So you have positive G's, positive gravity, right? You're again going up. So you're if you will, having additional gravity on you. And then as you're coming down, you have negative gravity, negative G's, that force of gravity on your body. So you can pass out, or you can throw up, or you can have a lot of different things happen to your body because you're putting your body through a lot of intense forces that you're experiencing as this vehicle is moving up and down to create that no gravity perspective, and you can float around inside the Earth. See, that's what's happening as you're floating. It's okay, but as you're moving up and down before you get to that neutral state, that's where your body doesn't like that force.
Do they, I don't know if you covered this, I apologize if I missed it, but one of the kids wants to know, do they make water or bring water? How do they have water?
So they take water with them. right now, and that's why SpaceX takes up the different cargo missions to restock the food and the water that is required for them to stay long duration in the space station. So those cargo missions are very important and necessary. They were being done with the Russians back before we had a vehicle in place, and then it's been continued with SpaceX to fly those missions with the cargo up to the International Space Station. However, having said that, there are a lot of experiments working on having closed loop type of technology that can, using microorganism, filter urine back to water. And so that is still, under development and testing and experiments, but it's a way to process urine to make it back into water, so that for long duration space flight going to Mars, where you have to be there for so long, that we have additional technologies that will allow us to filter that into water, because that's going to be a lot of water to take for such a long duration.
And it's heavy. So
And it's heavy.
And it's
Correct.
heavy. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, as we get ready to close out, ladies, would you like to make any final comments to our viewers nationally, internationally, and within the territory? And hello, Puerto Rico. Thank you for joining us this morning.
I do have, I want to answer two of your questions that you had up here. So what type of vocational careers are there at NASA? And there are a variety of different vocational careers here. There, like we said, there are welders, electricians, plumbers, technicians, and the technicians vary in specialty from wiring to mechanical to chemical to all sorts of things. So there are a lot of vocational opportunities to be able to work here in social media, in a variety of different places, and doing a variety of different things. So it's not just all the technical, but there's a lot of the hands-on folks that are actually doing the day-to-day work here and doing installations and so forth. The other second question I wanted to answer, does the rocket team have a car for the rocket? Well, that's a two-part question. When the core stage shows up and it comes on a barge, that is actually on a transporter. And that transporter allows us to move it from the barge all the way inside of the vehicle assembly building before the cranes pick it up off of that transporter. That's different than the transporter, the crawler, which has the mobile launch system on top of it, and it has the rocket on top, and it has to move all of that across the pathway all the way to the pad. So there's two different transporters, or two different types of vehicles that we use. And then, of course, the car that we transport the astronauts in has been redesigned, and now it's new. So for Artemis 2, these astronauts will actually have a newly designed different vehicle than the past Airstream that used to carry them to the pad.
Awesome. The little one asked, is there a car inside the rocket for them to drive?
No,
This is a future engineer, you can tell.
Yes. So there is no car inside of this rocket. However, there will be cars, per se, vehicles that we will be shipping to the moon, that we will provide and land on the moon, so that when the astronauts get there, they're able to drive around the moon.
Wow.
But they won't go in the same rocket as the astronauts. They'll just be shipped in a different launch.
Okay, and one last question that just came in, and it says, I want to make sure I get this right. When you talk about NASA and you talk about SpaceX and the other, like Virgin, okay, I get it. So when you talk about the other space companies, do they work together or are they competitors? Good question.
So they are competitors. That is a commercial industry. And so you have Blue Origin, you have Sierra Nevada, you've got SpaceX. So you have a multitude of different ones. And then you have Virgin Galactic, which is doing something completely different with space planes something entirely different over in Nevada. So there is a lot of commercial work happening, and they are competitors, but at the end of the day, they're competitors, but in reality, they're just all have the same mission. They all want to get into space. They all want to provide that opportunity to eventually get the majority of people the accessibility to get into space.
Awesome. Amazing.
I would like to just add on to that too, though, that we as NASA do work alongside these commercial partners as well. So they do have their own individual, launches and things that they are doing to explore space and build rockets and all of that. But even within exploration ground systems and our future plans for Gateway, Human Landing System, and all of those, we work with SpaceX and Blue Origin. We work with Boeing and things, and so although they are competition and commercial, we also work with them. So it's very integrated out here, which is great because now NASA is very diversified and it's not all just on the taxpayer dollar, and things are able to move more quickly.
Okay.
Thank you, Megan. That's a great point. Yes, we work very, very well and collectively with all of our commercial partners.
I know I said that was the last question, but I just got another one texted through and says, what if you're creative and you don't like math? Can you still work at NASA? I love that question.
I think you can, because one of the things that I have found is I personally have worked a lot with graphic artists. Mm-hmm. One of the things that we do in order to provide even the picture that you see behind Megan, we have graphic artists that will take a picture, modify it, and put it in different type of tools, whether they are pull-up type things that we use to go to, we take to events, to posters, to materials we print. So we have graphic artists, we have actually artists that give us different views of what the future would look like, say on the moon, and they have to do some graphic design of concepts of different things of how that might look futuristically. We have them, so we have a variety of different artistic type skill sets that help us in developing a lot of different products across NASA.
Wow, that's very interesting. Well, ladies, as we close this out, I just want to give you an opportunity to share any final thoughts with our students in the U.S. Virgin Islands, our guests in Puerto Rico, we love you, and all the folks in the United States, the continental, as well as around the globe.
Well, I just wanted to say that reach for the stars. There is no dream that is not achievable if you work hard. So continue to work hard, continue to dream big, and aim for the stars.
I think that that's such a great message. And, I think for all of the kids listening, if you can just talk with your parents or teachers or grandparents or whoever about what your interests are, what you might want to do when you get older, the things that you love to do. And one of those jobs could very well be at NASA. So you can just ask them what they think if you're interested in art or math or science or gardening or whatever it is. You can say, is this a job that I could work at NASA? And the answer is probably yes. So just make sure you keep your options open and chat with your teachers about what you can do one day. But thank you all so much for joining us today. We're so excited to be able to talk with you all.
And I just wanted to add for all of those kids, if you want to tell your parents to take you on a vacation to the States, many of our NASA centers have great interactive visitor centers. And so if you're trying to get an idea of the different things that are offered at different locations, go visit their visitor centers. They have a lot of interactive things that you can learn more about and see what the diversity is at that specific location.
Exactly. I actually did that at Kennedy and did that simulator for the rocket launch I didn't like that very much. You youngins out there, you might like that, but it was a little vomity comedy for me. I thought, oh, but the staff said we had to do it, so I did it. But anyway, on behalf of the Virgin Islands and UVI and Dr. Hall and all of the professors on the physics team, and of course the College of Science and Math, my name is Christina Chanas. I'm with the University of the Virgin Islands. Thank you for joining. We'll see you at 1 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
As we sail on this new cosmic sea, there's so much to learn. There's so much to be excited about.
Artemis is different from anything humanity has ever embarked on before. And we will discover life-saving, earth-changing science and technology along the way.
We're delving deep into what science can be achieved by humans working together with robotic capabilities, and future infrastructure to support a long-term human presence at the moon.
The Artemis generation stands ready to return humanity to the moon, and then to take us further than ever before to Mars.
Onward and upward.
We are going to the moon, to deep space, and to Mars. Humanity will venture further out into our solar system than ever before. But the history that awaits us requires a first step.
This is a story of a mission that represents that essential first step to the moon. A mission that has become the first in a series of increasingly complex missions to expand the bounds of human exploration. This is the story of Artemis 1.
3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
Artemis 1 was a first flight that set new records of performance, exceeded our estimates for efficiency, and established new safety baselines for human flight into deep space. All before returning from this journey, plunging through Earth's atmosphere, and arriving safely back on our home planet.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christina Chanas. I'm with the University of the Virgin Islands College of Science and Math. I'm a research specialist here on the beautiful island of St. Thomas. I want to welcome you to the annual University of the Virgin Islands NASA Outreach Program. It's 5 days, 16 events, and a whole lot of scientists and other experts who work at NASA. As we get ready to begin, I would like to invite Dr. David Hall, the president of our university, to provide a welcome. Dr. Hall?
Good morning. My name is David Hall. I am the president of the University of the Virgin Islands. I have been president here for over 14 years. This is my 15th year.
Quick technical difficulty. Bear with us. As we wait to do that, I want to introduce my colleague, Miss Megan. Afternoon, Miss Megan. She is at Kennedy, and I am on the beautiful island of St. Thomas. So good afternoon, everyone.
Good morning. My name is David Hall. I am the president of the University of the Virgin Islands. I have been president here for over 14 years. This is my 15th year, and it is always exciting to be able to welcome our NASA partners. They have partnered with the university for so many years, and it has really made a difference. This program in particular is one that is very special. And so I want to welcome all of the students who are participating either in person or participating online. I also want to have a special shout out to our teachers who are participating in this program and are the ones who nurture the students who participate in this program. You are their heroes, but you are our heroes as well. In addition to the wonderful students who are participating from the Virgin Islands, we have students who are participating internationally. And I just want to mention a few of the places that we have connections with. There are students here from South Africa, the Philippines, the DC International School. We also have students in Florida who are part of the Palm Beach School and the Naples Classic Academy. Our deep gratitude to have this international diversity of students participating in the same program. As Virgin Islanders, we are always proud when individuals go off and do great things and then come back and share their knowledge and insights with us. There are two individuals who are part of our family, but part of the Nassau family, Ms. Fullwood and Dr. King. They are participants and will be sharing information with the students, and they are a shining example that the Virgin Islands produces excellence, and we are glad when that excellence comes back and shares with us. I also want to thank the Montessori School and International Academy. They were the ones who launched this initiative back in 2013, and the University of the Virgin Islands is so thankful for their leadership, but we are glad that we have been able to take this over and to move it to even greater heights with the leadership of Christina Chans and David Morris and others who participate in our physics program. And one of the things I hope you understand, especially to students who are considering pursuing higher education, and I hope all of you are, that the University of the Virgin Islands has an outstanding physics program. We were attracting students for a number of years through our applied mathematics program and our engineering partnership with numerous institutions around the nation. We still have that program in existence. However, a number of years ago, we were able to develop a bachelor's degree in physics on astronomy, a focus on engineering concentration, and that has attracted many students to us. And what I am proud of is that in just 4 years, we have been able to graduate 14 students with that degree, that is the BS in physics. Many of those students are now pursuing a PhD in physics. Some of them are in the workforce, doing great things as well. So that is another example of how the university is able to attract students from around the world, cultivate them in a very special field, and finally able to contribute to NASA. One of the reasons we wanted to have this program was so that we could be a supply chain for the talent that NASA and other federal agencies and private agencies need in the workplace. And so finally, I just want to say to all of the students gathered that we would love to have you consider us as an institution for you to pursue your educational dreams. And especially to those who are in very cold climates, it would be wonderful to pursue your degree at a place where the temperature is always in the 80s, where there's a beach right on your campus, and where you can enjoy studying and having a wonderful time year-round. And for those of you who are Virgin Islanders, please remember that we are one of the few institutions in the nation that offers free tuition, and that is complete coverage of all of your costs. And it is the way in which the government and the university are saying to you that we are investing in your future because we want you to invest in our future. So thank you all for participating in this exciting program. Again, I want to thank NASA for its investment in the future of this nation, because all of you, no matter what you think you want to do in the future, you are our best weapons for moving science forward, moving technology forward, and moving this nation and world forward. So welcome again to the program, and I hope you have a wonderful and exciting day. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hall. That was a wonderful welcome, and it's always so exciting to have you with us. So appreciate you dropping in to share kind words for our visitors all across the nation and the globe. This afternoon, we have folks with us from the University of the Philippines. Dr. Molinar's team is on, and I want to give a shout out to the kids at Bowski. They are on this afternoon. Thank you for getting your testing done early, guys. Appreciate you. Next up, I want to share with you a video from students from the Adelita Cancrine. It's from last year. Currently, Adelita Cancrine is being rebuilt. So this is students from what we're calling Lockhart K through 8 on St. Thomas. And as a little tidbit, remember this school because you're going to hear about a local Virgin Islander who's a family member of our community, but also a part of the NASA family. Momentary glitch.
Can I just tell you, an APS student, and I can interact
And that's technology, everybody. Just bear with us 1 second and we'll get that video right up for you. But it's a really fun scientific communication piece done by 7th and 8th graders.
Hi, I'm Commercial Studies, an 8th grade student, and I'm your future astrophysicist.
Hi, I'm Kelly Charles, an 8th grade student, and I'm your future physicist.
We are the UVI Water Ambassadors from Adelita Cartwright Junior High School.
Many know the USVI as a beautiful place in the Eastern Caribbean, but let's share a little bit about our history. The United States Virgin Islands, officially the Virgin Islands of the United States, are a group of Caribbean islands and an unincorporated and organized territory of the United States. The islands are geographically part of the Virgin Islands archipelago and are located in the Leeward Islands of the Lesser Antilles to the east of Puerto Rico and west of the British Virgin Islands. The U.S. Virgin Islands consist of the main islands of St. Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas, and 50 other surrounding minor islands and cays. The total land area of the territory is 133.73.
Little technical difficulty there. I apologize, Dr. Molinar, to you and your group who are staying up in the middle of the night to participate in this event. I promise we will run that tomorrow for the SIP and STEM, so you'll be able to take advantage of it at that time. But Dr. Molinar directed and I wrote and did a treatment for a student script, which we will share with you later in the program. Now I want to take a minute to introduce you to my colleague, Miss Megan, who works at NASA, and she's going to share with you a little bit about herself and introduce our speaker. Miss Megan.
Thank you, Christina. We are so excited to be here. My name is Meghan Epperly. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator for Exploration Ground Systems at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Unfortunate that we couldn't watch that video, but I'm sure maybe we'll tag it on to the end if we have time. But I do want to say before I introduce our speaker that if you have any questions today that you'd like to ask either myself, Christina, or our speaker from NASA, you can feel free to drop them in the chat if you're watching on Teams in the Q&A section, or we are also monitoring them on the Facebook Live, or you can communicate directly with Christina. So we'd love to hear all of your interesting questions. But I will go ahead and pass it off to our speaker today, who is a logistics engineer for Exploration Ground Systems, and her name is Brittany Woods. So take it away, Brittany.
Hey, good afternoon. Are you able to hear me? Oh, okay, perfect. I will share my screen. So, like Megan said, my name is Brittany Woods. I'm a logistics engineer for the Exploration Ground Systems program. I've been with NASA going on 5 years, come February. I started off as a Pathways intern and then was converted full-time later that year in August in 2019. I have lived all over the United States. I was born in Georgia, grew up in Florida, and like I said, I've traveled in many states. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Mathematics from Bethune-Cookman University, and I have a Master's of Science in Industrial Engineering from the University of Central Florida. So just a little bit about my career at NASA. I said I started off as a student in college, and then prior to working here, I taught 6th and 7th grade mathematics. As far as logistics goes, that's really making sure that we're getting the right thing at the right place at the right time in the most cost-efficient way. So we really do support a lot of the operations for our program. And what I do is provide oversight to our contractor at our logistics warehouse and other storage facilities to create real-time storage solutions, as well as manage our material service centers throughout our our program. So in some of these pictures, you'll see a lot of ground support equipment that we use within some of the facilities that we'll see later on in the presentation, like our 450-ton crane and our engine vertical installer and platform here in the middle, as well as our recovery transportation vehicle, which is used to, bring our capsule back, which you'll see later on. So these are just some of the fun things that I get to see on a day-to-day basis in the facilities that I work at, as well as, coordinating with our customer support representatives and ensuring readiness for our deliveries and our consumable items. So next, I'm just going to share a quick video, and I do believe I did not toggle my sound, so I'm actually going to unshare and reshare just that quickly. One second. There we go.
Years after we last left footprints on the moon, NASA's Artemis 1 is our first bold step towards getting us back there and pushing us farther than we've ever been before. You are looking at the world's most powerful rocket, an Orion spacecraft, live on Launch Pad 39B. The energy here is palpable as we attempt to make history today.
We're going to learn so much about the solar system from the moon and even about the Earth.
Range weather. Weather is go for launch.
The mission management team has been pulled. You have a go to proceed with terminal count.
On behalf of all the men and women across our great nation who have worked to bring this hardware together to make this day possible, at this time, I give you a go to resume count and launch Artemis 1.
4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
SLS now traveling 607 miles per hour.
The harder the climb, the better the view. We showed the Space Coast tonight. What a beautiful view it is. The first step in returning our country to the moon and on to Mars.
We are understanding now from the James Webb Space Telescope just how big and vast this universe is. There's a lot out there to explore. And this is the next beginning.
Orion is now flying free, attached to the European Service Module and on its journey to the moon.
Of Artemis 1, we rise together back to the moon and beyond.
All 4 RS-25 engines on the core stage and 2 solid rocket boosters now for
Great. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Artemis mission and what that is and how, EGS is involved with that. So Artemis is the twin sister of Apollo and the goddess of the moon. And NASA's goal is to land the first woman and the first person of color on the moon. And so we're really excited to share in this experience with you all. I love that video. I always think about where I was sick with COVID. when it launched, but such an amazing experience. We just had our first anniversary of that Artemis 1 test flight, which was on November 16th of 2022 at 1:47 a.m. And so again, I was up watching it on TV with my family, but it was such a beautiful experience to watch and know that we were a part of that. On November 16th, this mission was a 25-day and 10-hour and 53-minute duration, and we traveled 1.4 million miles for this mission. The re-entry time, and I apologize, the speed, we were coming in at like 24,000, I think 581 miles per hour. And the splashdown was on December 11th in 2022. So here is one of the pictures that were captured on December 5th, which was the 20th day of the Artemis mission. And so there was a camera on the tip of the Orion's solar arrays that was able to capture a portion of the moon. And so at its closest point, Orion was able to fly within 80 miles of the lunar surface. Here we see those beautiful parachutes that deployed, and this was on December 11th, 2022, when the Orion spacecraft made its splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. And again, this was after that 25.5-day mission to the moon, and the capsule was recovered by our landing and recovery team, the US Navy, and the Department of Defense. And other partners aboard the USS Portland. And so again, that RTF, that big gray structure I was showing you in one of my storage facilities that's used to transport the spacecraft, that convoy drives all the way across from California all the way back to Florida to the Kennedy Space Center. So again, just kind of fun to be in logistics. So as far as returning our humans to deep space, so now we are embarking on Artemis 2, and this will be our first crewed flight of the SLS, so that Space Launch System, in the Orion spacecraft, returning astronauts to the lunar environment for the first time in over 50 years. And so here we have our crew. We have Reed Wiseman, who is our commander. He's the gentleman sitting up front. And then Victor Glover is our pilot, standing directly behind him. And to the right, and I'm sorry, that's to the left kind of on the picture, we have Christina Cook, who is our mission specialist, and then Jeremy Hansen, who is also a mission specialist. And so Victor Glover, he'll be our first person of color to go to deep space. You know, we've sent astronauts to the ISS many times, and both women and people of color, but the ISS is within the Earth's atmosphere. And so this time we're going to have an opportunity to send someone to deep space and around the moon. It's really exciting. So about the program that I work for, the Exploration Ground Systems Program, or EGS, our mission is to build, launch, and recover. And so what that means is that we utilize our vehicle assembly building, which we'll see in later slides, to build and assemble rockets. And then probably one of the most exciting parts of what we do is that we launch these rockets. And we have several pieces, again, of ground equipment that help us do that, such as our crawler transporter, the mobile launcher, and our launch control center, and our pad 39B. And then lastly, we want to make sure that we have a safe recovery of both the capsule and our astronaut crew. And so that's such a crucial part of our mission, is that recovery after splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. So here we have our vehicle assembly building. It is a national landmark, and NASA plans to launch people and its equipment into deep space, using this as, one of the central elements that we have on center. This facility, it was constructed for the assembly of the Apollo and Saturn V moon rocket, and made by, and I guess it was the largest, rocket made by humans at that time. And for 30 years, it served as the assembly point for space shuttles, where the solid rocket boosters were stacked and external fuel tanks were mated. And so then the rockets and the shuttles, they were taken and rolled out to our pad with those boosters attached to them. So how big is our vehicle assembly building? We see these massive pictures and we drive past it, but the VAB is one of the largest buildings in the world by volume, and it stands over 525 feet tall, and each of the doors are 456 feet high, and they take 45 minutes just to open and close. The American flag that you see on the building, it is 259 feet high and 110 feet wide. And so that blue and white star area is actually the size of an NBA regulation basketball court. And so you can actually drive a bus down one of the stripes going down the facility, which is ridiculous, but it's massive. And so we have had 135 space shuttles that were prepared for launch in this facility, along with 14 Saturn V rockets, and again, most recently, our SLS rocket, again, that's a space launch system for the Artemis 1 test flight. So inside of the VAB, and this was during processing, again, of the SLS rocket, on the left, that is one of the boosters, and then on the right, we have our core stage. But we have 5 overhead cranes inside of the VAB, including 2 that can hold up to 325 tons. And so again, these are critical in picking up some of the heaviest elements of our rocket and, carefully placing them in position for launch. And these cranes are so precise that they can lower an object onto an egg without cracking it. And I can hardly lower an egg onto a filter without cracking it. So I don't work the cranes. I just wanted to share again just a logistics nugget, because again, we are so embedded in the operations around center, but we have a logistics materials service center within our VAB. And so our NASA and contractor personnel, they can use their badges to pull bench stock items like gloves, Q-tips and tape, and garments and tools and equipment from these areas to be used within the VAB. And again, in one of those previous pictures from my storage facility, I told you we had these EVI platforms, the integral vertical installer, and it's bar stool. It's used for the replacement of, and I guess I'm not really pointing on the right screen, but it's used for the replacement of these RS-25 engines on our core stage. So in the need of that, you know, we have that ground support equipment stored in one of my logistics facilities. So really exciting. So the tallest portion of our VAV is called the high bay, and we have 4 of those. 2 of them are on the east side, and then 2 are on the west side of the building. And the SLS rocket was assembled inside the VAB for the Artemis 1 test flight. So after the rocket is assembled, again, we said we have those 456-foot high doors that take 45 minutes to open. They open up and we're able to roll out to the pad for our final stop before leaving Earth. So really, that's everything you need to know about this iconic and historic vehicle assembly building. Next, I want to share with you this, I think it's pretty awesome, video. I didn't know it was in here, but I had the opportunity to work with Meghan to develop this. But I want to share a great video with you all and encourage you as you are seeking out opportunities outside of school to consider NASA as an opportunity and a place for employment.
We need you, all of you, to go for everyone.
Where no one has gone before, to help humanity reach our collective goals of exploration and discovery.
Unlock your potential side by side, interns, civil servants, and contractors.
You will be mentored, you will be coached, and you will be challenged for your personal growth and for the success of the Artemis mission.
Your talents,
your skills,
and your perspectives are needed to make this possible.
Splashdown.
Begin your journey from the ground up. The time is here.
The time is now.
So again, what better time than now to begin looking at opportunities for your future growth. And at NASA, there are so many careers that are needed to make this possible. For instance, we have flight element engineers, project managers, and CAD designers. So that particular CAD designer right there, Dave, I actually worked with him on a project as a ATP, so an accelerated training program participant. And he helped me to develop a visualization model of the recommendations to remodel the warehouse to help support the storage needs of the Artemis 1 mission. And so even as a student, you can have work that is directly related to the mission. And it's just a really great place and opportunity to be. Not only do we have those engineering areas and business areas, there's also various opportunities in vocational areas and trades. For instance, welding technicians and launch pad construction. I know at the launch equipment shop, which is one of the facilities that I work with in logistics, we have a material service center there. But, our welding technicians are over there. That's where one of our weld shops are. And again, and I didn't point it out, but in one of those pictures I showed up front, there was one of the warehouse racks were completely damaged, and those welders remodeled it, and they were so beautiful. I don't know if you saw them, but those were some really beautiful welds that they put together in order to make that structural integrity of those warehouse racks so much better to support our storage needs. And so as you're considering these opportunities, I encourage you to go to nasa.gov.careers or intern.nasa.gov and learn more about opportunities that are available to you. And don't limit yourself on what you might think that is applicable. You never know what someone is looking for on your resume as you're building that up. So again, we have social media, robotics designers, and astronaut trainers. And I don't want to leave Meghan out, but even education specialists. There's such a wealth of knowledge that's here on site. And so again, I encourage you to seek that information out and find something that fits you. So just as Dr. Hall had shared in his message at the beginning of the presentation, we had Virgin Islanders that work here at NASA. So Dr. Rudolph King on the left, he is a senior researcher at Langley Research Center and a graduate of Ivana Eudora Ken High School, I guess the class of 1983. And then Miss Simone Fullwood, she is a senior systems engineer, and she was raised in St. Thomas, and she attended the Adelita Cancun Junior High School. She's also the wife of a logistics engineer, Mr. Fullwood. To plug that in, but I work directly with her husband, and they're just such a great group of people. And so, as you're considering all of these opportunities, don't forget that you can't do it alone. Everything that we do as a team. And so it's going to take all of us in order to carry our plans forward. So lastly, I want to share one final message with you from astronaut Joe Acaba.
Hello, I am NASA astronaut Joseph Acaba coming to you from the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I studied and worked hard, graduating high school in California, and then earning both a bachelor's and master's degrees in geology. While working as an astronaut after my last flight, I earned a master's degree in education, an area I strongly believe in. Education opens doors to so many opportunities. Much of my life has revolved around education, both as a student and a teacher. My education got me to where I am today. When I became an astronaut, it was like going right back to school. We have to learn all about our spacecraft, we learn to speak Russian, and we train in high-speed, high-risk operational environments to help us get ready for a space mission. I've flown 3 missions, one aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery, and twice on the Russian Soyuz spacecraft. Missions lasted from 2 weeks up to 6 months. Here at NASA, we continue to advance the research and technology to return humans to the moon. We are still pushing forward with plans to send the first woman and first person of color to the moon under NASA's Artemis program. No human has set foot on the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972. So the possibility of landing on the moon is incredible. On November 16, we watched Artemis 1 launch and execute the first lunar orbit in more than 50 years. This was the first integrated flight test of NASA's deep space exploration systems, the Orion spacecraft, Space Launch System rocket, and the ground systems at Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral all came together for this extraordinary mission. Artemis 1 traveled a total of 1.3 million miles to the moon and back. After a 25-day mission, Orion successfully splashed down on December 11th in the Pacific Ocean. The capsule is now back at Kennedy Space Center, where it is being tested and studied. Up next will be Artemis 2, taking astronauts to the moon, and it will be here before we know it. I'm currently the chief of the astronaut office, ensuring crew safety and mission success. My hopes are to inspire the next generation of explorers and leaders, and to help elevate, build awareness, and highlight the teaching profession and its importance to our society. As you learn more about NASA and all that we do, I want you to remember that we are all crew members aboard a space station, our beautiful planet Earth. Viewing the Earth from space reminds us that we all share the same orbiting sphere as we travel around the sun together.
And that's all I have, but
Hello, I am NASA astronaut.
going again. But I thank you for your time, and I will pass it back to Meghan.
Thank you so much, Brittany. That was all so informational. I think we all learned quite a bit about your job and everything that's going on for the Artemis program down here at Kennedy Space Center. I have seen a few questions come through, so I'll go ahead and pass it back to Christina if you would like to ask any questions, and either Brittany, myself, or you can take the answers.
Okay, we have one from St. Thomas Homeschool from Miss Glenda's class, and her question for her student group is, how big is the moon? Love that question.
Well, that's a great question, and I think I can take that unless you're an expert on that, Brittany. So the moon is about a third of the size of the Earth. So it is our closest celestial object. So that's why we want to go there before we can go even further, which would be to Mars. So it's a little bit smaller, which means that there is gravity, but it is less than it is here on Earth. That's why when you've seen pictures of the astronauts in the 60s and early 70s on there, they bounce around like that because there is still some gravity, but since it's a smaller planet, it's not quite as heavy as the gravity is on Earth. I hope that answers the question.
That's great. Thank you. Our international students have a question, and they want to know if international youth are allowed to take part in the challenges and or the internships.
So yes, we do have specific program for international students. So you can go to intern.nasa.gov, and that'll take you to the homepage of our internships programs. So there you can see for students, anybody who's watching that's in the United States, you can learn about the Pathways and OSTEM internships, which are for US citizens, but there's also plenty of opportunities for international interns as well, which you'll find that information there too.
Super. Okay, we have another question. I see some are coming in on Facebook, but I'm going to defer to you, Phasia, because I can't follow the thread. Let me keep going. Does NASA recruit based on grades, degree, or career path?
So I would say it's a little bit of all of those. There are so many different career paths and jobs that you could have at NASA, and it all really depends on your area of interest. So for example, I could let Brittany talk about this since she was a Pathways intern. You know, she has a background in is engineering, so she took that way. So I'm sure if you want to speak on that, Brittany, of your experience with that.
Okay, sure. So I personally started as a Pathways intern during my master's degree. However, you can start in your undergrad, so at the 4-year level, and they want to make sure that you are enrolled full-time and that you are also able to work 640 work hours prior to graduation. It's like a co-op, so you go to school one semester and you go to work the next semester, and you do that back and forth until you have completed that program. There's also a non-traditional path, which is what I did, where you can work and go to school at the same time and complete the program. The difference between, I'll say, pathways and, say, some of our OSTEM, our Office of STEM Engagement internships, is that it is not project related. You end up with, you know, a really, I'll say, large, you know, type of project that you work through out your tenure for the pathways. So similar to, as I shared, you know, that gentleman, the CAD designer, Dave, you know, he helped in my intern project where I was to optimize the space within our warehouse to support our storage needs for the Artemis mission. And so in that, you know, coming out of that program and then to our accelerated training program, the pathways, it leads to a path for a direct employment with NASA. So ideally, you know, if you do a good job, you know, there should be an opportunity available for you coming out of that. And so that's kind of how I got into logistics and warehousing. And I've really just kind of taken that same project on and have kind of managed it.
You are so cute. That is so great. Such a nice story. And it's neat that you started in the pathway as well. UVI actually, under the direction of Dr. David Morris and Dario Carboni and Dr. Michael Henry and Dr. Jan Staff, who recently passed away, we have had over 60 youth take part in the last, I think, 6-7 years as interns at Langley, Johnson, JPL, Kennedy, can't forget Goddard, those DC kids. And so if you come to the University of the Virgin Islands in the beautiful Eastern Caribbean, where the weather is 85 and balmy and the ocean is like a bathtub, for you cold weather folks, it's wonderful, and all those opportunities exist, and they recruit very heavily from UVI. So thank you for sharing that. We have another question. I think this one's a funny one. I think this is for you, Miss Meghan. Is the VAB ever closed completely? I think this has to do with the photos of the doors open, or is it always open so you can access the rocket?
So, and Brittany, feel free to chime in if you have any specific insight as well, but it's kind of fluid. So there are times where it's completely closed off when needed. So it's out here on the Cape, which has lots of high winds. So there are often times where many of the doors have to be shut just because those winds are so strong that they could, you know, create FOD, which is an acronym that means foreign object debris. So that could be anything. FOD can be a piece of hair. FOD could be a hammer. It could be a screw. It could be anything. So it's very important that when the rocket is inside of the building, that we are aware of all of the potential foreign objects that could be around. So that does mean that the doors stay shut more often. That said, when there's no rocket inside and there's always a need to watch FOD, but no need for that because there's hardware in there. A lot of times they do open the doors for cross breeze and things like that because the main area is not climate controlled. So it can get very, very hot in the summertime. So it's actually kind of nice in there sometimes when you have the cross breeze coming from the ocean.
Yeah, that sounds great. That's wonderful. Okay, another question, and I have a funny one from a student that I'll read at the very end. How much food is taken to space and what kind? Sounds like one of our students might be a little hungry.
So there's all sorts of foods that are taken. I'm assuming that this is for the ISS because we are still working on all the things that will be taken for the astronauts in the Artemis program. So I can't speak on that, but I can say for the ISS. So we send from the United States astronauts up to the International Space Station on a cadence of about every 6 months. So those astronauts will go up and work for 6 months and then come back. So there is some food and water and supplies that are packed on each of those that will go up every 6 months. So, you know, the astronauts need to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner just like us. So there's plenty of food that's taken up. So then in addition to those launches that have the astronauts on board, SpaceX and soon Boeing with their Starliner, they send up cargo missions to the ISS as well, which those are about every 6 months as well, but they're on a cadence that's in between the astronauts. So almost every 3 months there are cargo and supplies and food and water and things being sent up to the astronauts. Also, it's kind of fun too, but they also get things like holiday meals. So say they have a cargo mission that's going up in November or December, then they might have, you know, American Thanksgiving food sent up there so they can enjoy too. So there are some fun things that are sent up.
That's thoughtful.
Yeah.
Miss Glenda's homeschool group also wants to know, how old is the moon?
Ooh, how old is the moon? I don't know if I can answer that one specifically. I do know.
The big guy.
Yeah, that's a question for the big guys. It is just as old as the Earth.
Exactly. Okay, so I want to give a shout out to St. Croix. We see we've got some St. Croix folks on here. Woohoo! The internet is back up over there. Yay! God bless you. Thank you for joining us. We have another question. Hang on one second. I scrolled. I'm sorry. Is everyone at NASA in the same place, and is it only in Florida? So you might talk East Coast, West Coast, North, South. Some folks here have never been off island.
Yeah. So we have centers all across the United States. Kennedy Space Center is the largest and does employ the most people. So we do have a pretty large campus here. We also have lots of our commercial partners are on the Cape or surrounding as well. So that is kind of an extension on just NASA's presence too. But we have centers all over the place. And that said, for the Artemis program itself, there are parts of the rocket that are supplied from every single state in the United States. So even if you live, you know, in Oklahoma or North Dakota or California or wherever it is, just because the rocket is launched from Florida doesn't mean that those states have not also contributed to building and launching this rocket. So there are ways all across the country, and actually, I mean, internationally as well, with the European Space Agency and et cetera with that.
Okay, so we have one other question. I'll make it quick. Let me find it. How is it that only 4 people go to space? Is it because the capsule is small, or is it the part that comes back to Earth that's small? Why aren't there more people in space?
Yeah,
I think that's kind of cute.
Yeah, there's it's both. They are relatively small, the spacecraft compared to the rocket. So if you look at it on top, it's just the very tippy top that has where the astronauts are. It can fit, I believe, up to 6 when it's fully stocked with astronauts. But for the test mission, it is just 4. And I mean, a lot of that is also with just the more people you put in there, the more food you have to pack, the more water you have to pack. So you really want to be as efficient as possible, which means you need to send the most skilled people up every time. So that way, every person is doing a lot of work. They really carry the weight of more than one person. So we send very trained people, so we don't have to send 20 people up, because that just gets more and more expensive and harder to do.
Okay, so I just want to give a quick shout out to Miss Catherine Johnson, who was a mathematician, and she and her two best friends were made famous in the film Hidden Figures. And one of the things that's notable, and I want you guys to talk about as we get ready to close out, is just the importance of having a diverse, workforce, minorities, underrepresented, all of that. But then women of color, just, really coming to the forefront, because when Miss Johnson helped them go to space initially, it was very rare for women to work in that type of capacity. So can you guys touch on that really quickly for our community?
Yeah, I would like to just say, working at a federal agency, it is in our everyday life, the importance of diversity in our workforce, because people of different backgrounds bring different perspectives. They might see an issue or have an idea that something that came from their upbringing or their educational background that could provide, life-saving or very critical changes that might need to happen. So, we like to say the thing of, you don't want to be in an echo chamber, which is when everybody in the room is the same educational background, came from the same area, same gender, same whatever it is, because those people, they might not be able to bring in those outside ideas and those outside concepts. So having people around that have different backgrounds is so, so important. And it's so nice to see, if Brittany wants to speak on this as well, it's so nice to see our diverse workforce just continuing to grow. And I think that it's so important, and things look very different than they did in the 60s, and it's great to see.
That's awesome. Any comments, Miss Brittany?
Sure, I'll add on to that. And, one of, not the very last video that you saw from Joe Acaba, but the one I shared previously, that I said I actually worked on with Meghan and our strategic communications team. The purpose of that video was to remind you all that everyone is needed to make this mission possible, from all of our perspectives. Again, those skill sets and talents, all of those are needed from each of you. I know I wouldn't be at NASA if it wasn't for a African-American female engineer coming into my classroom and speaking to us. She came in to, I might not know what ergonomics is, I know it's a younger group, but she came into my ergonomics class and was sharing with us about her experience and projects that she worked here at the Kennedy Space Center. And it really took taking, I guess, a step back and from being afraid of my own, self. And I'm a little shy, it might not come off that way, but, I had to take 2 steps forward towards her and ask her about opportunities. And in that, we began networking. And when the opportunity about the Pathways internship came around, she thought of me and sent me the information and told me to apply. And so, again, as you are seeing people in the field that look like you and sharing, those experiences, again, take it seriously for what it is, and know that sometimes there are times where you have to carve out that path. There might not be someone that looks like you. There might not be someone with your same background, but that doesn't mean that the knowledge that you have is not valuable and can contribute to the mission, because it might just be that what they are seeking and need to make things a success.
That's awesome. Well, ladies, as we get ready to wrap up, are there any final comments you'd like to make?
I would like to just say thank you so much to everyone who tuned in today. This was so great to be able to share our story with you all, get you all excited about space exploration and what your future holds. And, we do hope that one day, both Brittany and I are still early in our careers, and maybe one day we'll see you come in and be our boss. So we want to see that. But that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Brittany, any closing comments?
Just thank you for the invitation to share with you all. And again, look up those intern.nasa.gov and nasa.gov/careers and find those opportunities that are available to you. And just have a wonderful day.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all about NASA, careers, pathways, and all of the great things that you can do. For those of you on Facebook Live and on Teams, we put a bunch of resources in the chat. Tomorrow we will have at 3:30. We're adding an additional event where teachers can get access to educational resources for science, and high school students can find out about a free summer program here at UVI in the dorms, funded by NASA. It's a pre-engineering program, so stay tuned and come for that. You can do that on Facebook Live, and then we'll have activities at 9, 10:30, and 1 p.m. every day through Friday. Enjoy your day, everyone. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.